So sometimes you just see so much hype around something that you got to give it a shot. And that's true of a lot of things. It's definitely true in the headphone world. And while my last review was the DT770 Pros, and I really like those headphones, and after trying a bunch of closed-back headphones, I decided those were going to be my pick for the ones that I was going to keep, just because I thought they were a great all-around headphone for music and gaming. I kept seeing one headphone in particular come up over and over again on forums and Facebook groups and things like that for a great closed-back value, and that headphone was the Meze 99s. This particular model is the Noir version from Drop. This one is $200. There are also the 99 Classics, which are $300, and they kind of have the same, like a different wood cup and gold accents. And then there's the 99 Neo, and those are $200, but they have black plastic cups instead of wood cups. My overall design preference was definitely for the Noirs, which is kind of more of a subtle blacked out version, but still retains the wood cups, and I'm a sucker for wood on headphones. So that's why I picked up the Noirs. So what we're gonna do is we'll get into this headphone and talk about kind of its pros, its cons, and then we'll compare it a little bit with the DT770 Pros as well. While these do cost significantly more, because these are $200 and the DT770s are like $150, but you can find them used or open box anywhere for like $120. So they're not quite double the price, but they're both closed backs, and they're both pretty well regarded, and that's why we'll draw some comparisons between the two. First, with the Mezes, I'd like to talk about style and design. Now, usually, like, style doesn't, while it's a factor for me, it's not the biggest, it's not something that I look to as like one of the key components to why I purchase a headphone. However, that being said, I feel like it is quite noticeable on the Meze 99s because I do feel like it is such a great style and design. I just feel like it's really well pulled off throughout. It's very simplistic and minimalist. It looks really nice and clean, and it works, it functions well as far as like the mechanism for putting it on your head. It's, there's no notches or any settings there. It's all tension based, and there's like an elastic system. So it just kind of, you pop it on, it snaps right on your head. It works really, really well. And, again, it's just such a nice, simple, clean design that I think a lot of headphone companies could look at the Mezes and learn a thing or two from what good design looks like. Now, while I do feel like it is a very excellent design, the materials aren't, particularly high-end or premium, although it does feel well built. It doesn't feel like there's going to be any issues with this, but the metal doesn't feel particularly nice. The pleather, while it's perfectly adequate, isn't like exceptional or anything like that. So overall, I'd say the materials are adequate for the $200 price of purchase. But again, what you're paying for here is a really nice, clean design that I think, while a lot of headphones seem a little awkward to wear out in public or maybe in like a professional setting, I do not feel like I'd have as many qualms about wearing these out and about or in an office setting. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about comfort, because comfort is kind of a mixed bag for me. Like I said, I really like the system for putting it on your head, and I feel like there's no issues as far as like fit or clamp. I feel like all that feels very good, very appropriate. The issue that I have is with the pads, and it does come with two sets of pads. They're both pleather pads. One is a little bit softer and has a little bit smaller diameter opening in the middle. And then the other pads, the ones that I preferred, were a little bit stiffer and had a wider opening in the middle, a larger inner diameter. So whereas I feel like the softer pads were more of an on-ear pad, the stiffer ones are over ears. And You know, the issue, I had issues with both of these pads. Sound quality aside, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, I felt like the softer pads, they didn't get all the way around my ear, and they just weren't deep enough to where my ears hit the insides of the cups, which there isn't a lot of padding there. And so after just a few minutes of use, less than half an hour, I would start to develop hot spots on my ears, and I found them to be quite uncomfortable, really. Now, while I do feel like with the larger pads, comfort improved because they actually got all the way around my ears, and because it's a little bit stiffer material, even though they're about the same depth, I didn't get the same, I didn't get the same pressure on my ears. That being said, my ears still did touch the inside of the cups to the point where it wasn't painful or anything like that, but it still bothered me after a while. So really my biggest complaint with these headphones would be with the pads. Now, thankfully that can be solved by swapping out pads for some Brainwaves HM5 velour pads. And so with those on the headphones, this is what they look like. And so it's unfortunate here because while I did feel with the Brainwaves pads that the comfort was much better, and also the sound, which we'll talk about here in a second, what's unfortunate is you're sacrificing the design when you put these on because they don't fit in the grooves that the other headphone pads do, that system works really nice and it's really easy to swap pads. These have to come over the edges and they hide, some of that nice wood cup, and they just don't look nearly as clean or nice with those on there. However, with the Brainwaves velour pads on, they're thicker, they're plusher, they're deeper, they're just all around more comfortable. They get all the way around my ear. You lose some seal, whereas the stock pads seal really well and isolate really well. You don't get that same isolation once you put on the Brainwaves velour pads, but I feel like the trade-off is worth it for the comfort and for the sound improvements as well. So let's go ahead and start talking about the sound and how each of the pads affect the sound. And then for the most part, I'm going to talk about these headphones with the velour pads on, because really this is the only way that I really enjoyed these headphones was with these velour pads on. So the biggest issue I had with the sound on the 99s was the bass, and that is what was really impacted the most from swapping pads around. I felt like with the soft pleather pads on, I really felt like the bass was pretty uncontrolled and kind of boomy. And so much so that it just overtook the rest of the frequency levels to the point where I didn't feel like I could really enjoy listening to much music on this headphone. And those are the pads that came on my 99 Noirs, which I purchased mine used, by the way, for about $145, I believe. So just FYI. But between the comfort of those pads and then that boomy, uncontrolled bass with those on, I really was kind of instantly turned off to these headphones. Now, when I swapped to the stiffer pads, I did feel like the bass became more well controlled, although still I would say would be the most emphasized frequency in all the range. I did feel like it was a little bit better balanced. I felt like it was controlled. I didn't feel like it was like too crazy overdone with those pads on. The vocals, when you've got the pleather pads on, I feel like are a bit recessed. They're not very intimate with those on. The vocals feel a little more distant from you. And the high frequencies I also feel like are a bit subdued, again, compared to the lower frequencies when you've got those pleather pads on. So I didn't really like the sound signature with either of the pleather pads on. However, when you put on the velour pads, it really does alter the sound signature in a very significant way, to the point where I didn't really like these headphones with the pleather pads, but with the velours, I thought it was a really good sounding headphone for music. And you see some very significant changes all across the frequency spectrum, I felt, when you put the velour pads on. So first and foremost, the bass is tamed just way down when you put these on. So I would say it falls in line with the rest of the frequency levels to create a much more balanced sound overall. It's not super punchy with the velour pads on, but there's definitely still plenty of bass, and it still extends pretty low as well. Vocals really come forward once you've got the velour pads on, and they become a much more intimate sounding headphone vocals wise, while also I feel like they open up and they sound larger as well. So it's really kind of interesting how that happened with vocals. I wasn't expecting that. In the higher frequencies with the velour pads on, I feel like there was quite a bit of airiness added to them, to the point where I felt like they extended better, and really I could pick out a lot more details in the music across all frequencies with the velour pads on, and just found them a much more pleasant headphone to listen to. Very easy, very smooth, nothing standing, you know, out as harsh or overdone when the velour pads were on. And you do lose some isolation though, for sure, and so it's not going to block all the sound around you, and if that's what you're going for, you're going to have to stick with one of the pleather pads, I feel like. But if that's not a huge concern for you, boy, I just really feel like the velours just open things up and smooth things out and balance everything out to the point where these became a very enjoyable headphone to listen to once I made that change. So you know, where does that leave us with this headphone here? I guess in my mind, the biggest question for me is if Meze is including 2 sets of pads with the 99s, which I think is awesome that they do that, why didn't they include 1 pleather set of pads and 1 velour set? That just kind of boggles my mind, because if they would have came with an over-ear velour pad that fit and still looked great on this, boy, I think that would have been a really winning combination. Now, it doesn't cost that much to get the Brainwaves pads, you know, like 20 bucks, but, and I'll link those in the description below. But still, that's an additional cost, and again, you're losing that great design once you put these on here. For me, it was worth it, but I don't know, you'll have to make your own decision, and it could potentially be a deal breaker for some people. Now, talking about the sound, comparing it to the DT770, these are going to be much easier to drive. That's number one. So these can be driven just fine off a phone, or I really enjoyed them off my Ear Studio ES100 Bluetooth, little Bluetooth amp DAC. So I thought they made a nice combination with that, and that makes it really portable and easy to use, like on the go or anywhere in your house. And I'll be doing a review of that ES100 here before too long as well. Compared to the DT770 sound-wise, I would say that these are much more just an easier to listen to headphone. They still retain a lot of detail. You are going to lose some of the imaging and separation and soundstage with the DT770 that makes that such a good value for that headphone. But ultimately, if it comes down to listening to just music, I think I would pick the Meze 99s with the velour pads over the DT770 just about every time for just music listening. For gaming, the DT770s are going to win hands down. Their imaging, separation, and soundstage are just much better for that. I did try gaming with the Mezes a little bit in Call of Duty Warzone, but I found like I really struggled to pinpoint enemies and things like that, and they didn't work real well for that situation. So as far as an all-around headphone for music, gaming, movies, things like that, I think the DT770s are probably a better choice. But if your power requirements are limited and you are just looking for a music headphone, I really think the Mezes could be a great option for you if you're willing to put the velour pads on them. If you really like your bass and you want to emphasize bass, maybe sticking with the pleathers would be an okay option for you too. That's just something that you'd have to play with yourself. Other things that I want to say about this. The Mezes do also come with a couple of other things that I haven't mentioned previously. So they come with a pretty nice carrying case, which is cool. And they also come with a couple sets of cables. Now, because I bought mine used, I only had the cable with the inline microphone, but I believe they also include one without a microphone if you buy them new. So to conclude with the Mezes, they are a well-built, well-designed, pretty great sounding headphone if you're willing to swap those velour pads onto them. Now, some people might prefer the bassiness with the pleather pads on them. That's just something that you'll have to try out for yourself. They are a pretty nice package overall, I would say, and they have potential, you know. As far as value-wise, I think they're probably priced appropriately. I just really wish they would have. I think they're probably priced appropriately considering they include, you know, a carrying case, a couple of cables, a couple of sets of pads. I think that makes them a pretty compelling value. I just really wish that they would have included a set of velour pads instead of 2 sets of pleather pads. I think people would have been getting a better options as far as comfort and sound goes if they would have made that decision instead of sticking with the 2 pleather pads. That being said, you can solve that problem by spending 20 extra bucks, but you're going to sacrifice a little bit of that great design in doing so. So, thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, I would appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing more headphone reviews. What I've been getting in the habit of doing is playing some sound demos at the end of these videos so you can get an idea of what different headphones sound like and how they compare. Usually I compare a couple of different headphones to each other. In this case, I think I'm just going to do some Meze 99 sound demos, but I'm going to do it with the 3 different sets of pads that I've mentioned in this video. So if you've never heard one of these before, how they work is you're going to want to wear a set of headphones. It's not perfect, but you should be able to pick up some of the differences between each of the pads on this headphone. And hopefully that'll help you get an idea of what these sound like and if you think they might be for you. I did a lot of closed back sound demos as well, and you can check that link out somewhere on the screen here if you want to go look at those other sound demos and try to compare those to the Mezes. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Thank you, and I'll catch you next time.
Don't feel alone in this world. The best is yet to come. Why focus on those bad times? This daylight is precious. See yourself as number one. Hold on to hope and never let him go. Your star is shining bright. There's something you should know. We rise and we fall. Don't feel alone in this world. The best is yet to come. Why focus on those bad times? This daylight is precious. See yourself as number one. Hold on to hope and never let him go. Your star is shining bright. There's something you should know. We rise and we fall. Don't feel alone in this world. The best is yet to come. Why focus on those bad times? This daylight is precious. See yourself as number one. Hold on to hope and never let him go. Your star is shining bright. There's something you should know. We rise and we fall. Don't feel alone in this world. The best is yet to come. Why focus on those bad times? This daylight is precious. See yourself as number one. Hold on to hope and never let him go. Your star is shining bright. There's something you should know. We rise and we fall.
I know I tried to make her mine, but at the same time, I know love is hard to find. I know I tried to make her mine, but at the same time, I know love is hard to find. I know I tried to make her mine, but at the same time, I know love is hard to find. I know I tried to make her mine, but at the same time, I know love is hard to find. Baby, shine through and come and save me. I've been missing Lady Luck ever since she started hating. I've been waking up too early. I miss our crazy hazes in the middle of the night. Watch the stars from different places. And the phases we call love won't ever start to change. But do you ever wake up feeling like everything is strange? We should buy a one-way ticket and board onto a plane and fly it straight into a black hole somewhere. Baby, shine through and come and save me. I've been missing Lady Luck ever since she started hating. I've been waking up too early. I miss our crazy hazes in the middle of the night. Watch the stars from different places. And the phases we call love won't ever start to change. But do you ever wake up feeling like everything is strange? We should buy a one-way ticket and board onto a plane and fly it straight into a black hole somewhere. Baby, shine through and come and save me. I've been missing Lady Luck ever since she started hating. I've been waking up too early. I miss our crazy hazes in the middle of the night. Watch the stars from different places. And the phases we call love won't ever start to change. But do you ever wake up feeling like everything is strange? We should buy a one-way ticket and board onto a plane and fly it straight into a black hole somewhere. Baby, shine through and come and save me. I've been missing Lady Luck ever since she started hating. I've been waking up too early. I miss our crazy hazes in the middle of the night. Watch the stars from different places. And the phases we call love won't ever start to change. But do you ever wake up feeling like everything is strange? We should buy a one-way ticket and board onto a plane and fly it straight into a black hole somewhere.
I love how it feels. Killing time, you and I. Hours, minutes, days and nights. Trading all of our deadlines for conversations over wine. Killing time, you and I. In this moment we're alive. Infatuated with your eyes and the way they look at mine when we're killing time. Hours, minutes, days and nights, trading all of our deadlines for conversations over wine. Killing time, you and I. In this moment we're alive, infatuated with your eyes and the way they look at mine when we're killing time. I love how it feels, killing time, you and I. Hours, minutes, days and nights, trading all of our deadlines for conversations over wine. Killing time, you and I. In this moment we're alive, infatuated with your eyes and the way they look at mine when we're killing time. I love how it feels, killing time, you and I. Hours, minutes, days and nights, trading all of our deadlines for conversations over wine. Killing time, you and I. In this moment we're alive, infatuated with your eyes and the way they look at mine when we're killing time.
Take a sip, you gon' trip. I'm like a cup of shroom tea in the morning. Coat your throat like hot honey. You gon' need water, then want some more me. In your head, you gon' slip, 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 slip. I love on you, and then I leave you lonely. You want to get to know me. I gon' slip. I love on you and then I leave you lonely. You want to get to know me. I'll agree in exchange for your soul, please, baby. Take a sip, you gon' trip. I'm like a cup of shroom tea in the morning. Coat your throat like hot honey. You gon' need water, then want some more. In your head, you gon' slip. I love on you, and then I leave you lonely. You want to get to know me. I'll agree in exchange for your soul, please, baby. Take a sip, you gon' trip. I'm like a cup of shroom tea in the morning. Coat your throat like hot honey. You gon' need water, then want some more. In your head, you gon' slip. I love on you, and then I leave you lonely. You want to get to know me. I'll agree in exchange for your soul, please, baby.